Well, Mr. Trudeau, thank you so much for the time to meet with me. Really appreciate it.
Real pleasure, John.
We're talking with the Windsor Independent, and obviously 2015 is upon us, and we have an election, whether it's going to be sooner or later. We have a fixed election date. Just tell us, how has it been? You're crisscrossing the country. You've stopped in London and now in Windsor.
It's been absolutely wonderful. I think people are complaining about the length of the campaign, the ongoing campaign. The election's already started. Well, for me, I've been campaigning for pretty much 2 years now, since I started running for the leadership. But campaigning for me doesn't have to be as negative as what a lot of people expect, because we have politics that have understood how negative, nasty, divisive campaigning can be very effective to get elected, but as we've seen, very ineffective to start governing properly. So I said, you know what, my campaign is going to be about getting out, meeting with as many people as I can, listening to their concerns, learning about the issues facing their region, and building an extraordinary team and a plan to serve. So that for me has been, quite frankly, a lot of fun. I get to go out to parts of the country that that I'd seen years before, but in a really engaged way, and really connect with people. And I think that's what people are looking for in our politics.
Well, and you're seeing large numbers showing up at your events. You're going city by city, so apparently that is resonating. So what is it, I guess, maybe about what you're trying to do that you think, whether it's voters or just residents, find different overall?
Well, I think one of the big things is we all know that Canadians are getting cynical about politics, have been for quite a while. It's easier to vote against who you don't like, or vote for the least worst of the options. But the fact is, Canadians, we're not a cynical people. We don't like to look at the world that way. We're big-hearted, ambitious, compassionate, hopeful about the future. And to be shoved into a cynical box, as we have been over the past while, just doesn't sit very well. So, and this is something that I didn't think up on my own. I learned it from everyone I meet across the country and talking about how we need to build a better future. So when I build a political team and a political focus that is very much around pulling people together to solve in a smart, not an ideological way, the very real challenges we're facing, people have been responding, and I'm really humbled by that.
Well, that's good to hear. And you want to replace Stephen Harper as Prime Minister. Why are you the man for this?
I think Canadians need leadership that understands what is needed in the 21st century. And the old my way or the highway, you're with us or you're against us, just doesn't work for a country as broad and diverse as Canada. We need someone who understands the importance of collaborative, cooperative leadership, who respects the provinces, who listens to municipal leaders, understands the concerns of different sectors, and pledges to work with them. Doesn't mean you're going to agree with everyone on everything, but it does mean that you say, look, let's work together and figure this out, because every different level of government serves the same people ultimately. I mean, and dividing things the way they have been just doesn't make sense. I'm someone who learned that leadership is about surrounding yourself with the smartest possible people, the best possible people, and getting them to work together in service of the country. And I think that's exactly what Canadians want to see, and I'm really humbled to see them responding.
So we have an election that's coming up. I think a lot of people have been talking about recently electoral reform. Mm-hmm. Is that something that is on your radar in terms of a
Absolutely, absolutely. We need to move beyond first past the post. It just doesn't make sense in the 21st century in Canada that we have governments elected even majoritarily with less than 40% of support of those who came out to vote. There's a lot of different discussions around it. The one thing that I like most is the idea of a ranked ballot, where people you simply choose, instead of putting a single X, you put, I'd like this person, then this person's my second choice, this person's my third choice. What that does is it reflects how we think about politics in general. When we look at the ballot, we look at the different parties, we say, I'd really like this person to win, but that one would be okay and that one would be okay too. And this other one, I'm going to rank them at the bottom of the list and they'll never vote for them. So that approach does two things. First of all, it doesn't require a big change in either our riding maps or our electoral system, or even the ballots on paper. You just put numbers instead of a single X. The other thing the other change will be the way you choose the MP becomes there's someone who has more than 50% of support of the riding, so that there isn't someone who can get elected with a small but passionate group. You need to reach out to the majority of the riding. And that reaching out will change the tone of politics, because if I'm a Liberal and I meet a Green supporter, instead of trying to encourage them not to vote, which sometimes happens, where you say, no, don't, you're going to get the wrong person in or whatever, you say, look, I respect your choice, but please take a look at our environmental platform, understand how strong the Liberals are on the environment, and rank us as your second choice. And that means people don't have to worry about strategic voting. They can vote for who they want. But political parties will be encouraged to reach out and find common ground with opponents and supporters of other parties. And that will completely change the tone of our politics.
That'd be interesting to see.
It would be.
And as important as electoral reform is, I'm going to shift focus here just locally, but also up to the Senate. Electoral reform wouldn't change our single sports betting bill, which has been passed through the House of Commons but stalled in the Senate. Some would say that as a result of your Liberals, your response might be, those aren't my Liberals. How important is that bill from your point of view for our economy overall and for Windsor?
I think it's something that requires a serious amount of study. I think what we have to understand in any shift like that is there are big pros and cons, and the Senate is there to be a place of sober second thought. It was a bill that was passed fairly quickly in the House with perhaps not as much study as should have been. And the senators are taking seriously the responsibility of making sure that the far-reaching consequences of a bill like that are in the best interests of Canadians, and that's what an independent, less partisan Senate would be very, very good at, and that's why I'm committed to removing the partisanship and the political favoritism from the Senate.
Are there any other ways that we can remove partisanship from our government more broadly?
Well, I think understanding that partisanship itself is not a bad thing. It's good to have an opposition that's holding the government to account that is a different framework, because as much as Canadians are similar in our values right across the country, we'll have different ideas of what the best way to embody those values into policies and solutions are, and what solutions are best for different regions of the country. So it's fine that there be a robust give and take. What the problem is when the partisanship takes over any intelligent thought or any real reflection of whether this is a good bill or bad. And because it was put forward by an opponent, it must be a bad bill. That's why I've actually committed to loosening party discipline, so that other than bills that are on things that were spelled out in the Liberal Party platform, that are confidence bills and therefore a budget that the government could fall on, or go to the heart of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, like women's rights in general. It's up for debate. It's up for negotiation. The Liberal government would have to earn the support of the Liberal backbenchers and everyone else through informed debate, through openness to amendments, through making our parliamentary system work the way our parliamentary system is supposed to work. And I'm really excited about seeing a better kind of government that respects democracy in Ottawa in the coming year.
We'll see how that turns out. Regarding some of your party policies that you were talking about, marijuana is a really big issue for a lot of younger generation, but also whether it's the medicinal community or those who want recreational. Let's say you are Prime Minister, whether it be a minority or majority government, on October 20th. Is marijuana legal the next day? What is the framework?
Not the very next day. I think one of the things we learn, and it's important to look at what happened in other jurisdictions like Colorado and Oregon, and one of the challenges that they're facing is it happened sort of overnight, and the framework needed to catch up. Yes, it will happen, fairly quickly, that we're going to legalize and regulate it, but we're doing so with a few very clear goals in mind. The first one is actually to protect our kids. Underage use of marijuana is higher in Canada than in any other developed country, according to a UN survey of 29 different countries. So our current prohibition approach is not protecting kids from accessing marijuana. And you can make all sorts of arguments about the fact that marijuana is not as bad as alcohol or cigarettes, but it's still not a health food supplement, and it has impacts on a developing brain. That means we need to protect our kids. So if you limit it and control it at least as much as alcohol alcohol, make it harder to get a joint for a young person than it is for them to get a bottle of beer, which is not the case right now, then you're actually protecting our kids. On top of that, you're removing the funding stream of millions upon millions of dollars to organized crime and street gangs. And that makes no sense for our government to be foregoing those tax revenues while it allows these criminals to be making huge profits off of it. On top of that, the tax money that comes in can be set towards addiction programs and support for people who need it, and there'll be a level of quality control while you're not criminalizing people for making choices as informed adults. All this means it's time that we did this in a responsible way, and we're going to.
Okay, well, it sounds exciting for people that would be enjoying that. Locally, the Paul Martin building. It's our federal building. I don't know if you've seen, if you drove by.
I've seen, it's crumbling. There's been a walkway around it for a long while.
They've put up big black drapes.
Really, that's new.
They've put up brand new black drapes that are covering it because, from what I've heard, is that they want to be able to open the front door, but they're worried about the safety concerns. What would Trudeau government do? Would it restore this building to its glory? Would it?
I think the Conservative government is missing an opportunity by playing sort of simple partisanship on this. I mean, think how it could send a message of generosity and bipartisanship for a Conservative government to invest in fixing up an important piece of cultural and political history in Windsor and in Canada. And for me, that's just irresponsible on behalf of the government, and it deserves to be restored to an appropriate degree.
Perfect. Well, we'll leave it on the Windsor note there. Thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it, and good luck with the coming election.
Thank you. The pleasure's mine.